This is Magic and Metal, an urban fantasy serial by Rebecca Riles, read for you by text-to-speech technology. In this monthly serial audiobook podcast, I'll read a beta version of chapters for you. If you love urban fantasy detective stories, then Magic and Metal is the podcast for you. Chapter 1, Jax Spencer. She was a kid, not even double digits. That's how low this city stooped. The alley's urine and cheap synth clung to the back of my throat. Shattered glass crunched underfoot, with more sharp edges hidden among broken crates. Slick pools of oil and grime oozed between cracks, reflecting and twisting the faint glow off fresh graffiti. Her rough skin and calloused feet were battle scars from a tough life. The ripped clothes she wore hung on her, thin and threadbare, barely holding on, her hair matted. But it was her green eyes that struck me the most, twin slits that glimmered like the curse. The old dragon's tale when Oz had told me to be cautious with magic. These eyes weren't the mark of a dragon who used too much magic, but rather a human child pretending to be something she wasn't. It was like spotting a sheep in wolf's clothing. Looks can be deceiving. She was sporting dragon contact lenses. I relayed to the detective's digital avatar projected on my glasses. Her real eyes were brown. I removed the contacts and placed them in an evidence container. Thought knowing she was human might get you here a bit quicker. I snarked. I probably shouldn't have let that last part slip, but the detective was lost in his own world, eyes glued to his overlay. My words evaporated into thin air, like a rabbit disappearing into a thicket, gone before he even registered them. I bit my lip, rubbing at the irritation bristling beneath my skin, like a wolf shedding its coat in the heat of summer. The raw discomfort reminded me that, no matter how much I tried to adapt, some things just didn't sit right. The detective could display a generic avatar, but he didn't bother to edit the wrinkled suit or the askew coffee-stained tie. My eyebrows pinched together, a mix of confusion and annoyance washing over me. He wasn't coming to the scene to do even the bare minimum to investigate this crime. He let the drones fly around while he reviewed the scene from his desk. He didn't care. Did she get a beatdown for being a public threat, or were dragons just peeved about her costume party? Detective Hardboiled asked. Maybe the guy had seen too much ugly to feel anything anymore. I had to bite my tongue, or I'd tell him to go get burned. No amount of ugly scenes would make me turn away from a child. I'd seen too many children lost in the city's shadows, like rabbits caught in the crosshairs of a hawk. Each one left a mark, a reminder that this world doesn't give a damn about innocence. I could stomach a lot, but not this. The church has been called, I said, hoisting up her resurrection medallion to the sky-eye drone. His tense shoulders sagged with relief as his gaze landed on the medallion. A faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips, hinting at a glimmer of hope. He exhaled slowly, his mood easing a fraction. Once she's plugged in, I'll talk to her. With a renewed sense of purpose, he turned away, relieved to engage with the girl once she was connected to the church's network. Survey for the residents, he ordered the police AI with a swiping motion no one used these days. Then he turned back to me. Wait for the church to claim their prize. He wrinkled his nose and sniffed. Cleaners are en route. He dismissed me with a wave of his hand and winked out. Iris, I triggered my AI. He's typical, Iris shot back, her voice a solid wall against my bubbling annoyance. Seems like his priorities are as jumbled as a raccoon in a trash can. With Iris around, I really wasn't alone in this mess. It felt good to have someone in my corner, especially when the so-called professionals out there were floundering about like fish out of water. A kid, still practically in pigtails, is dead, I said, the jagged edge of my words cutting through the silence, while the weight of anger settled into my gut. Heat flushed through my muscles. The anger began to simmer. This whole deal reeks worse than a midday fish market, and our detective? Guy's barely breaking a sweat. My words dripped with sarcasm. That medallion wasn't jewelry for her, I added. It was active and alerted the church. Someone paid for her tithe. Iris chimed in, her voice a cool counterpoint to my heated words. It's a damn tragedy, no doubt about it. A life snuffed out way too early. She'll live on in the network. The detective can pop in and chat with her there. Kids' memories are like autumn leaves caught in a storm. Beautiful, but unpredictable. Trauma distorts everything, and she might not be able to give us anything useful. Some of them don't even make it back. They stay scattered, I said, my shoulders slumping as a heavy sigh escaped my lips. Drone lights flooded the alley, turning it into a makeshift stage. The Resurrection Church's med team arrived in a van so white it begged for a mud bath. Two figures emerged, clad head to toe in sterile gear, their faces obscured behind visors. "Brother," one of them acknowledged me with a nod, typical church mannerism, whether you were a member of the church or not. I was a member of the church, ever since my foster father, Oz, promised to pass me off as a human child. They worked swiftly and efficiently, a well-rehearsed routine honed through countless similar nights. One knelt beside the girl, closing her eyes tenderly amidst the filth of the alley. The other readied the stretcher with practiced ease. "Peace be with you, sister," murmured the technician as he secured the girl onto the stretcher, his movements precise and methodical. "The church holds her now," reassured his companion, displaying a somber reverence for the fragile form lying before them. "May she find peace with the church," echoed the second tech as their van rumbled to life and pulled away from the desolate alleyway. The blinding drone lights retreated, and in less than 2 minutes, flat, they were out, leaving me standing in the much quieter darkness. Her real life was now just a sad little footnote in the vast field of souls. It felt wrong, like replacing a wildflower with a plastic one, cold and unsettling. My gut twisted, and I gasped, caught off guard by this unexpected wave of grief and anger. I clenched my fists, trying to rein in the storm brewing inside me. It was like trying to tame an angry cat. No matter how hard I tried, it just hissed louder. I tugged my jacket tighter, the fabric thick, yet somehow not thick enough against the biting wind. It whipped around me like a stray dog, eager to gnaw at my thoughts. The next steps were straightforward. Sign off on the report, let the cleaners sweep through the wreckage, and grab my gear. The mundane whirled around with tragedy, a dance I couldn't quite follow. Navigating to a shadowy corner of the alley, I leaned back, one boot propped against the wall, and summoned my digital partner in crime. "All right, Iris, lay it on me. What's the word from the world?" A new encrypted message from an unknown sender popped up. "Feeling adventurous enough to open it?" she teased. I flinched. I wasn't feeling lucky tonight. "Stow it for now. What else?" "I think you'll skip this one, too. Your precious cousin Lark has penned another urgent love letter." My lips curled into a smirk, but underneath, there was a murmur of irritation. It was like watching a squirrel try to crack a walnut on my bike. Amusing for a moment, but mainly annoying. My eyebrow shot up like it had a mind of its own. I wasn't about to ruin my night over Lark's melodrama. "I'll pass." "Exciting news. There's a bounty on a high-profile target nearby, the Phantom. Want the details?" Iris asked. With a smirk, I wondered out loud, "Is it Lark? And then? Next?" "You have an invitation from Davies." My eyes widened, then a smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. "I knew it, an engagement party." I smiled and raised my fist. I saw that coming. Davies was more than just a protege. She was a trusted ally, a confidant, and a friend. I took her under my wing, guided her, and imparted the hard-earned wisdom that came with my years of experience. "Actually," Iris said, her artificial cheerfulness grated on my nerves. She was faking an emotion she didn't have. "She sent a personal invite to her 2-year runner anniversary. She gave you enough notice to imply she's hoping you'll show up. Do you want to send her an RSVP with an avatar or a personal message?" An anniversary party for surviving 2 years as a runner? That's a new one. My typical facade flickered, revealing fleeting vulnerability. "You're holding back on me." Between her fake cheerfulness and a weak reason for a party, I knew a punchline was coming. "It's her promotion to detective announcement," Iris confessed, her tone shifting to one of caution, as if she were trying to warn me that a storm was coming. Years of training held the mask in place when the cold emptiness hollowed out my core. That news hit harder than I wanted to admit. It was like watching a hawk soar while I was stuck on the ground, flapping my wings against a storm. I gritted my teeth, wrestling with the familiar pangs of failure. I'd chased shadows while others grabbed the spotlight, and here we were again. Davies strutting toward her dreams while I stood in the shadows, a mere spectator in my own life. Davies was scoring her promotion right on the 2-year mark. Here I was, 5 years in, training others, watching them climb the ladder before me. It wasn't about what you know, but who you know. Davies had the connections, and I had my criminal uncle Oz, and I was never going to get a promotion to detective. Still, the fact that Davies wanted me to be a part of this milestone in her career meant a great deal to me. "Sure, I'll be there," I said, keeping my tone steady. "She'll make a top-notch detective. Except for me, Iris." I rotated my shoulders, trying to shrug off the weight of unfulfilled dreams. "I hear that Driscoll is looking for a new partner since Murray retired," Iris said to console me. "Driscoll's got the instincts of a hawk, the fashion sense of a peacock, and a zero-tolerance policy for injustice. But teaming up with someone like her is not an option for someone connected to Oz. Not worth entertaining the thought. I'm a pretty damn good runner-trainer, if I do say so myself," I muttered, shaking off the heaviness that threatened to creep in. Pity parties weren't exactly my scene. Never had been. No, I was more of the take it on the chin and brush the dirt off your shoulders type. I'd strut into that shindig, raise a toast to Davies, and then I'd just keep trudging forward, because that's how I rolled. Like a river pushing through rocks, unyielding, no matter how many times the world tried to throw a dam in my path. What did Lark want? Call him back. Might as well kick myself while I'm down, before Lark does it for me. My ear cuff buzzed lightly, pulling me back from the murky depths of my thoughts. It was Lark. "Jax, it's a miracle you've returned my call. I had an interesting chat with my father about your dependability." "Great." Lark, ever the charming snake, knew just how to twist that knife. When he referred to Oz as my father, my jaw tensed, teeth grinding like a predator, sharpening its claws. Lark had a knack for landing the perfect verbal jab, and that tone of his was dripping with smug satisfaction, like a cat lounging in the sun, watching a mouse scurry about, oblivious to the danger that lurked just beneath the surface. I leaned back against the rough brick wall, the jagged edges scratching my jacket. Arms crossed over my chest, I stared Lark down. "Cut to the chase," I said, my voice cold and sharp as the broken glass littering the alley. In the augmented display, Lark leaned in, his larger-than-life visage invading my personal space. His voice dropped to a theatrical whisper, his eyes glinting with contrived significance. "Jax, focus up." He drew out my name as he snapped his fingers and raised his eyebrows mockingly. "There's a bounty out tonight on a head with some family secrets in it that really shouldn't be leaking into the wrong hands," he said, each word slow, deliberate, and downright painful. Like he was trying to teach a dog the alphabet, and I barely kept myself from swatting his overinflated ego out of my line of sight like an annoying fly. The mention of a bounty brought a knot to my stomach, my breath hitched in my throat. The family business was a snake pit I'd gladly avoid if I could. I wanted to be a detective on my own terms, not some marionette dancing to the tune of the family's. But ignoring Lark? That was like sticking your hand in the viper's mouth, a risk that might cost me everything. He laughed, a snicker that curled around his lips like a snake coiling in on itself. "This little phantom went to the market while this little dragon stayed home," he sang, twisting the nursery rhyme into a mockery that grated on my nerves. "Lark, I'm on the job tonight. What do you want?" "Race to the night market and take care of the phantom." Lark made a running gesture with his fingers. I ran a hand through my sweat-damp hair that trickled down my neck. I focused on slowing down my racing heart. Stepping into Lark's circus could very well be the beginning of my downfall. He retaliated last time I ignored him. Doubt started staging a coup in my brain, whispering nasty little thoughts. Did I really have what it took to take care of someone? Did I even want to stop family secrets from coming to light? The kid deserved someone to crack her case, and the so-called detective was about as useful as a chocolate teapot. I could probably do better, even with one hand tied behind my back. I had a clue. Someone was paying for her resurrection medallion to be active and transmitting. No, I'm shocked. Utterly shocked, Lark mocked. He was not shocked. He was a manipulative jerk. especially given how tonight's events could impact you adversely. I don't have any part in family business. I'm not a bounty hunter either. The Phantom's got its claws in a whole bunch of secrets, and guess what? Your hidden dragon roots are right at the top of the list. If someone decides to grab the Phantom, crack open the mask, and start probing, well, let's just say that little tidbit of your mixed heritage could slip right out. Translation: if you don't start moving, your secret won't be so secret anymore. Panic caught me like a rabbit in a snare, and mine screamed for escape. I teetered on the edge, about to lose everything: my secret, my edge, my career, and the last flicker of control I pretended to have. Do I abandon the crime scene before the cleaners get here to protect myself and family secrets, or do I stay, do my job, and let my world implode? Subscribe at www.rebeccariles.com and join the community. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you, community, to read the story as I write it,